Z okazji premiery setu 10 Teamfight Tactics mam dla Was coś specjalnego. Dzięki uprzejmości Riot Games miałem okazję przeprowadzić dla Was krótki wywiad z lead designerem 10 odsłony Teamfight Tactics. Jeśli jakimś cudem trafiłeś tutaj nie wiedząc, czym jest gra, to zapraszam Cię na moją stronę internetową, gdzie moim celem jest nauczyć Cię grać w tę wspaniałą grę. Adres mojej strony to tftmeta.pl. Przejdźmy do samego wywiadu. Could you please briefly introduce yourself?
My name is Matthew Whitrock. I go by Whitrock or Witty. I am the set design lead of Set 10, and I have been working on TFT, leading sets since the project kicked off in early 2019.
Can you provide an overview of your role and responsibilities as the lead designer of Teamfight Tactics Set 10?
Yeah, so my role as the design lead is to ensure that the overall design vision of the set remains cohesive from how we are thinking about thematics, in this case, all the music and the bands, individual mechanics, big stuff like the headliner system and all of its rules, down to all of the smaller stuff of every individual champion ability and trait. And then making sure that everything feels like one good package, hits excitement and quality bar that players are looking for, and then fits into TFT more broadly, you know, is different enough from Set 9 and is different enough from past sets or even future sets.
So how did the idea for Set 10 originate?
Doing some form of a music set was something that had been pitched for probably at least 3 years ago. It had been very early, one of the themes we had considered. And then around the end of last year, when we were really getting started on Set 10, we looked at that theme again, looked at the, Riot had expanded different music themes up until that point. The TFT team had expanded its capabilities to do things like our own custom characters or skins. We also knew that the new band Heartsteel was coming out at about the same time as Remix Rumble. So that's when we kind of said, all right, this is the time to do the music set, and then eventually got refined into what became Remix Rumble.
10 is a big number, right, for TFT?
Yes, we were also excited to really go all out and put a lot of effort into the 10th set, sort of as an anniversary of sorts for the game.
What is the process for designing and balancing the champions, items, and synergies?
From more of the early set design perspective, which I'm the most involved in, what we do is we focus very much on building out our ideas and playtesting them as early as possible. So over the course of a set's development, the thing we're constantly talking about is how can we play this as soon as possible? How can we play something even with temporary art, temporary sound, imperfect balance, missing mechanics? How can we just get in and play as much like players to start to give each other, the design team and other disciplines, feedback to find out what's going to be fun? And from there, it's a lot of iteration. We keep ourselves open to big changes as long as possible. Then we try to narrow down more and more of the specifics. We bring on, as we're trying to get to the balance half of your question, we bring on more of our either live balance experts that are like very high skill levels, or folks from our game analysis team who are like totally focused on being experts and high level players of the game. And we just refine all the way until the end. There's always the last moments as well of, getting it into players' hands with preview events or PvE, and then we ship it.
If you were to give an advice to people aspiring to become a lead designer in the future, what would it be?
Yeah, so I'll start with working in design, the thing I always recommend, and the thing that got me my start both at Riot and then into the design discipline. I started in the QA quality assurance discipline, was make games however you can. Make board games, make card games, make things in Unity, make things in Unreal, anything that you can get, make mods of games that you enjoy, like Minecraft or Dota, anything that you can do to get practice at making games. And then the move to lead designer is really making bigger games. I always recommend start as small as possible when making games. You know, make a platformer, make a kind of Rails arcade shooter. But as you start to grow, think about the larger games. I probably wouldn't go to the absolute largest of a thing like an MMO, but think about how you could make a larger game. You know, write down all the details of your systems, your theme. Just really, a lot of it is practice, and then ultimately finding ways to apply that in a team setting, either as like a group project at your university, or if there's a thing that you can get together with your friends. But anything that allows you to get some of that practice at doing stuff as a team, because most games, not all of them, there's some great solo devs out there, but most games are made with a team, so getting practice doing that.
As we know, TFT incorporates elements of strategy and chance. How do you strike a balance between skill and luck in the game?
Yeah, so I'll speak a bit to myself personally. Whenever I think about most designs in TFT, I focus on what is going to be something that is going to be an interesting and deep skill test. And so I'm looking for ways to have content lend itself to high levels of mastery, whether it's through like mastery of knowledge, you know, understanding deeply how all the systems and mechanics work together. Sometimes mastery over needing to make decisions quickly. I think that's, well, TFT is not a like physically APM intensive game. It is a game that requires you to make good decisions fast. And then mastery over luck. So I think often people pit like variance and chance against a skill, and that those two things are opposed to each other. I personally don't think so. I think a big part of the mastery of a game like TFT, or a lot of other more strategy games or card games, is trying to, we use the word all the time, but adapt to that variance, and being able to identify what variant situation you are in and execute in that situation as strongly as possible. So I don't think these concepts are opposed, and I try to focus on how can skill influence luck is how I think about it.
How did you decide on which champions to include in set 10?
Yes, so set 10 was a fairly unique set for a few reasons. First was since we were doing music, it felt very clear from day one that certain things needed to be included. KDA, True Damage, Pentakill, Heartsteel as well. We knew that we were going to include, even though players didn't know about it yet. Or even something like DJ Sona as a thing that players strongly remember that Riot did many years ago related to music. We also knew that we just actually didn't have enough music themes to flesh out the whole set. So we looked at new skins that we could make. This is where the super fans came from, or Maestro Jin, or Ill Beats Alawi. And there we looked at two things. First was things that could solve problems, honestly, like KDA doesn't have any tanks, so who can we add that can kind of stand in your front line? Or things like champions that players would generally identify as being, you know, if you look at all the 160 plus champions in League, a few of them have more music focused on their themes, but they don't necessarily have a super musical skin. So Jin and Bard were actually the two. Well, Bard exists. We had used him recently in set 7, so we thought, okay, how can we get anything that is related to music in the set? And then it was a lot of filling in the gaps. We have certain requirements to make TFT sets feel good between frontliners and backliners and magic damage and physical damage and stuns and healing and shielding. And so we kind of took the pieces that we knew that we needed to have, filled in the gaps, built out the rest of those champions to fit our kind of new bands and new genres of music.
Do you know of any plans in the future to bring some brand new units like the 8-cost dragons in set 7?
Yeah, what I'll say is we're still very interested in what both the new units and new skins can bring to TFT. We've been delighted by the player response in the past when we first, added Silco, when we added all the new dragons. And so it's always going to come down to what the set and the theme wants the most. Something like set 9, Runeterra, when we were looking at brand new units, we really thought, it doesn't make as much sense here when this set is kind of celebrating sort of more base Runeterra, base League of Legends, and we still had things like a new version of Baron or the T-Hex from Legends of Runeterra. So I think it'll come down on a set-by-set basis, but we're still very interested.
Which of the TFT sets would you call your favorite?
That's a good question. Personally, it was probably set 6 with both the introduction of augments and kind of its relationship to Piltover and Zaun and sort of the arcane theme. There was just a lot I personally enjoyed about that set. It was also a set that I did not lead, and it's a little bit easier to personally enjoy. I think a set that you are not the lead of. If you're the lead, you've been working on it for a year. You understand all the ins and outs. The whole puzzle part of the game doesn't work as well. So because I wasn't the lead of 6, I got really a chance as a player to kind of just play it and enjoy it.
Does Riot consider bringing back a previous set?
It's something that we have talked about basically every year, and what I'll say is I think it's still something we're interested in. We have to figure out what sort of timing would feel good and what really bringing back an old set even looks like. TFT has just evolved so much over the years. The item system has changed. Base mechanics have changed. Even the number of champions in the game has changed over time. How new systems that didn't exist in the past, like augments, might feel missing depending on how far back in time you go. So there's interest, but there's a lot of challenging details to figure out.
Do you have any favorite champion in set 10?
Yes, so there's a few champions I've been really enjoying playing on PvE. I like Samira. I like a good traditional backline AD champion, and I like how she interacts with both Executioner and Country. I recently have been trying to play a lot of Jax, either in Mosher or EDM. I think kind of we got to use I don't know if a lot of players have actually noticed, we got to use the recent Jax visual update from Summoner's Rift, and so I think he's kind of fun to watch and fun to see the slam and spin with multiple characters in EDM. And then I've also been enjoying Alawi. I think often 5-cost more tanky units can be a little bit tricky, but I like the way that she slots into a lot of end game boards. I think there's more different ways you can use her tentacles than players have really figured out. And so I've been trying to find different ways to make her work.
So which rank in TFT are you?
I usually hit mid-diamond on sets that I play a lot of. I take breaks occasionally, especially as so actually right now I haven't played a whole lot of 9.5, but when I play, usually mid-diamond or so.
What can players expect from the future of Teamfight Tactics? Is there anything you can share with us?
So I can't spoil anything today, either about future sets or any more specific plans. I guess I can say we're going to keep making sets. This should be unsurprising to people at this point. But you should be expecting sets regularly. And set 10 is the first time that there will not be a mid set, and that's something we expect to be true as well. Is 3 sets a year rather than 2 full sets, but with no mid set. But the other more broad answer is we're continuing to expand our capabilities, expand the team. One thing I'm excited for is more opportunities also outside of gameplay. Well, we want to keep investing in gameplay and going big, like Remix Rumble, there's plenty of things kind of around the game that have needed some love. Set 10 is coming with explicit support for tablets on mobile. We've done things like the team planner that normally the gameplay team might not prioritize, but blends a mixture of in and out of game. And we're constantly having conversations about more broader ecosystem things like esports or our ranked system, or how does progression look with missions and battle pass. So there's lots of things that we're excited to kind of especially revisit that may have been some decision we made 4 years ago that might not make sense anymore.
So, what was the biggest challenge that your team had to face when designing the musical side of Set 10?
So, a few challenges. One was it's very hard to kind of play test and understand what the music in the set and how the system of mixing different layers of music is going to come out as without recording all of that music. And so for a long time, we had a sense of how the system was supposed to operate, but with, temporary tracks or partially record, you've got half the bands have music and half of them are just dead silence. It was hard to see the final picture come together, which made it challenging. The one other challenge was trying to think about all the different types of players that play TFT, like in terms of demographics and like the global nature of the game. Music is so culturally important to so many people in so many different ways around the world. So trying to capture things that would be resonant around the world, and across, folks who are younger or older or super into music or not that into music, but you could be. So there's just a lot of different types of considerations for who this music needed to be for.
Your Riot profile says that you create, collect, and play games. My question is, are you specifically a game collector, or is there more than meets the eye?
I am not as much of a collecting as many different copies of different games. I like certain games that involve collection. I'm a big Magic the Gathering longtime player, so I collect Magic cards. You can maybe even see on the shelf behind me various bits of different types of games that I'm into. And so I like to play a kind of a wide variety of games and kind of just have a broadness of experiences of games and genres.